Okay. Yeah, there we go. Let's take a look at this piece. Now, I'm going to talk about the lyrics of the piece, why they are what they are, and maybe in the next video I'll actually discuss the music, why I created what I created. I don't know what's interesting to people, so you kind of gotta bear with me a little bit. I can't imagine any of this is terribly interesting to anybody. Feels to me like it would be as exciting as watching paint dry. But, hey, people tell me that this stuff is something they want to see and hear. So, we might blow against the wind. If you have something you'd like to hear, something you'd like to know, by all means, slap that sucker in the comments down there. Ooh, that's a lot of reverb in there, isn't it? Let's see if we can't chill some of that back a little bit. Check, check, check. Oh, yeah, that's better. Anyway. Yeah, you got something you want to hear? Slap that sucker down in the comments. Let's hit this puppy.
We got trouble on the mountain where the lightning fills the sky. We got trouble on the mountain. Watch the storm clouds rolling by. We got trouble on the mountain. See the mudslide rolling down. We got trouble on the mountain. Watch your cabin go to ground. We got trouble in the valley where the mudslide filled the road. We got trouble.
The heck was that? I just hit the pan tilt control. Didn't have to shut the whole blooming thing down. Never mind. Sorry I touched it. Well, I'll start over. Computers.
We got trouble on the mountain where the lightning fills the sky. We got trouble on the mountain. Watch the storm clouds rolling by. We got trouble on the mountain. See the mudslide rolling down. We got trouble on the mountain. Watch your cabin go to ground.
Hey!
We got trouble in the valley where the mudslide filled the road. We got trouble in the valley where the rivers overflowed. Hey! We got trouble in the churchyard. See the coffins floating by. We got trouble in the churchyard where the water's running high. We got trouble.
You can hear that steam train back there. The shaker.
where the tracks had washed away.
Oh, yeah.
We got trouble with the steam train. There ain't no help to come today. Hey! Trouble, trouble, trouble.
Yeah.
Trouble all the
Ignore
day.
that particular vocal part. That was just a test. I'm taking that out. It was awful.
We got trouble in the freight yard.
This is what I wrote in the car.
See the stokers cut and fly. All the boilers running red line. While the icy waters rise. And we got trouble in the stockyard. Oh, she belly wash the cows. We got trouble in the stockyard. There ain't no way to save them now. We got trouble in the coal mine. Thank the Lord they don't work today. If it washes out the pilings, then the whole thing's gonna cave. Yeah, trouble.
Okay, anyway, you get the idea. Obviously, it's a incomplete song, and it will probably remain that way. I think Acoustic Smok will record it, so I'll never finish it as a scratch track here in my studio. I'll wait till Roy and Alex actually tackle it, and they will bring it to life. Not that it hasn't got great life now, but they'll bring it to more life, and I'll be excited about that. Let's talk a little bit about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I created a persona here in the song. All I've really done, this isn't rocket science. I created a character, and that character is the flood, and that's what the whole thing is based on. And honestly, the entire song, the whole inspiration for the song was Charlie Daniels back in the 80s. He does, I mean, you can find this as funny, but it's true. Back in the 80s, the devil went down to Georgia, and he's talking about songs that Johnny played on his fiddle. And one of them is, Fire on the Mountain, run, boys, run. Yeah. Well, I've always listened to that thinking, wow, that'd be a neat song. And it probably is a bluegrass song, and that's probably a traditional fiddle bluegrass song. I'm sure that's exactly why Charlie Daniels included that, as well as Chicken at the Bread Pan, Pick That Dough, Mama's Your Dog Bite, No Child, No. All that stuff, I'm sure those are titles of great bluegrass fiddle songs, probably Appalachian or Southern in nature. And I always thought that was neat. So I've always wanted to create a song about trouble on the mountain. Well, now years later, I was sitting around, had nothing better to do. So I did that. So the persona is the flood. It starts out on the mountaintop. It comes down the mountain, washes this poor guy's cabin away, and then it hits the valley. And once it hits the valley, you know, we can see devastation that it's causing as the mudslide fills the road and the water, you know, the river overflows. And let's see, we'll go through that much. Because I don't remember the lyrics to my own songs. I haven't worked with it very long. It's still new to me.
We got trouble on the mountain where the lightning fills the sky. We got trouble on the mountain, watch the storm clouds rolling by. We got trouble on the mountain, see the mudslide rolling down. We got trouble on the mountain, watch your cabin go to ground.
Now, lyric structure-wise, this is blues, believe it or not. This is a pure blues piece. The reason it's blues is because it's dual refrain with a change up in the third phrase. So it's, yeah, it's smooth cigar. We got trouble on the mountain where the storm clouds fill the sky. So you got, we got trouble on the mountain is the primary refrain. And that is the refrain. It then goes on and it changes up the last piece of the phrase. And then it refrains again. We got trouble on the mountain where the storm clouds fill the sky, where the lightning fills the sky. However a writer wants to do that. Refrain, refrain, and then bam, the last phrase is completely different.
We got trouble on the mountain, watch your cabin go to ground.
And then we simply move down into the valley. We're going to do the same thing. We got trouble in the valley where the mudslide filled the road. We got trouble in the valley where the rivers overflowed. So you can hear that. It's the same refrain style, shortened up for the valley. And as we follow the character of the flood through the rest of the song, we're going to continue that basic concept. Now, after the valley, we hit the churchyard, because that's where the flood's rolling next. This was inspired, I was watching a news article, and I was watching the coffins in Louisiana after their great flood. The coffins floating down the street. And I thought, there's a song there. hear the freight train come in? That's a shaker. We can thank Johnny Cash for that. He used to do it on guitar. But shaker, I just love that. I got that in all kinds of music.
Trouble with the steam train, where the tracks are washed away. We got trouble with the steam train. There ain't no help to come today. Hey! Trouble, all the...
Yeah, missed the pitches on that. Don't worry, I'm going to pull that part out. I was experimenting. You do a lot of that. You experiment with different melody lines, vocal tracks, lyrical concepts, rhythmic concepts of how the words are cut up, how the syllabification falls in line with the rhythm of the song. You'll notice that this song mixes itself up in short syllabification, short syllable words, and longer syllable words. That's kind of an interesting part, particularly of Appalachian music. They tend to do that. And it's a neat idea. They do that in a lot of Southern Gothic as well. And now here, after we've had trouble with the freight train, now we're going to switch up the pattern of the vocal lines a little because you're trying to keep the interest of the crowd. And if you just mantra the same thing all the way through, that can get a little dry. So instead what we do is we change up the vocal pattern here, and now we're going to have trouble in the freight yard. And I got in some hassle with my wife about this. Well, hassle's strong. She and I were chatting about it. And she didn't want me to include this next phrase or this next set of phrases because she said, look, okay, you got trouble in the freight yard. The boiler is running red line as the icy waters rise. So I think the whole lyric is, we got trouble in the freight yard. Watch the stokers cut and fly. Stokers, they're the ones that are loading coal or wood into the boiler of a freight train. And those boys, they're out of there, And the boiler's running red line as the icy waters rise. Now, the men will all know exactly what I mean by that, and they know that the whole place is going to blow. I mean, that sucker's going to go off like a nuke in the middle of the freight yard. My wife's point was, the women aren't going to know that. How could they possibly know that? They're not into steam trains and stuff. But I found over the years that it's those kinds of details that you need to put into the song for this kind of music. If you're doing pop, those details don't typically exist. It's because the song needs to be interpretable by everybody in your crowd, and pop is kind of the lowest common denominator. Not that there's anything wrong with pop. Pop's a great form of music. It's just not... the music in pop is perhaps more central. The sound is more central than the concept that's being offered. Whereas the kind of music that Acoustic Smok is doing, the concepts being offered often take a precedence over the sound itself. Or at least that's how I do it. I'm not sure Roy and Alex see it that way entirely, but that's okay because it gives us a well-rounded band and it gives us a well-rounded sound. So I left it in there for that exact reason.
We got trouble in the freight yard. See the stokers cut and fly. All the boilers running red line while the icy waters rise. And we got trouble in the stockyard. Oh, she belly washed the cows. We got trouble in the stockyard. There ain't no way to save them now.
Now, another interesting section. We're about to go into the last section, which is trouble in the coal mine. I've gotten complaints in the past that I kill too many characters in the songs. So I avoid that if possible. I've just found that the listenership is really more interested if I don't kill all that many people. So, flooding out the coal mine and slaughtering hundreds of miners is probably strictly verboten. So you'll hear a line. It's very intentional. Thank the Lord they don't work today. See, it's an empty coal mine. Yeah. And now we're going to send our evil protagonist down there, and it's going to just crash out the coal mine.
We got trouble in the coal mine. Thank the Lord they don't work today. If it washes out the pilings, then the whole thing's gonna take.
I got to get that guitar section kind of... Let's drop that. That doesn't really need to be there. Again, it's not finished music.
Thank the Lord they don't work today. If it washes out the pilings, then the whole thing's gonna cave. Yeah!
And then the music will crash back in and we'll wrap up the piece. Theoretically, that's what will happen. And that's how the lyrical content is done, and that's why it's done. With the blues refrain, the change up at the end of the first lyric line. In most of these refrains, you'll get we got trouble, we got trouble, we got trouble. And then the change up at the end, that's not traditional blues, actually. That is a direct nod to country western. Or more specifically, more of an Appalachian South, kind of a Kentucky country western, not necessarily bluegrass, but that creates a more of a unified genre, and that's why the song is done that way. In another video a little later, what I'll do is I'll go through the music, why I created the music the way I did, what I was writing there, what my intent was. Now, whether I reach it or not is totally up to you as a listener. I don't know. I just write the songs. I don't really, I just write the music. I drive my little van. I write my little songs. I sing in my little microphone and I do my thing. So that's just what I do. I have no idea if any of this is any good. So, this is Joe Holt, Acoustic Smok. Catch y'all later.